Hello, welcome to another episode of Making Justice. I'm here, your host, Meeson Nguyen, and today we are talking to Billy Linstead Goldsmith of Fair Trade Campaigns. Billy's actually going to be talking to us about Fair Trade USA, the leading brand organization that certifies fair trade products in the United States. And we're so happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming, especially during the month of October, Billy. So please tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, and Fair Trade USA.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be with you guys. So I'm the director of Fair Trade Campaigns, as you mentioned, kind of the grassroots advocacy arm of the fair trade movement. I've been in this role and at Fair Trade USA for a little over 11 years, and it's been a great opportunity for us to work both within the fair trade movement to drive deeper engagement and engage more consumers, but also to engage with a broad range of sustainability-focused organizations through our grassroots advocacy, and have certainly had an opportunity to gain a lot of insight into how things work at Fair Trade USA as a certifier, and as a connector between business and between producers.
Neat. This is why you are the perfect person to be on the show for this month, especially. So being that Fair Trade USA is a large brand, and our show is Making Justice, which tries to expand and bring to consumers more explanation, more clarification around what is ethical. So help us to understand what makes Fair Trade USA or Fair Trade the brand ethical.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, ethical can mean so many different things, and it's a really important question for consumers to ask themselves, because we all have a role and an opportunity to play in making justice through our purchases. And so figuring out what that means for you is a really important part of the equation. For us at Fair Trade USA, and I would say, more generally throughout the fair trade movement, we think about ethical in relation to the different facets of kind of the broad definition of sustainability. So the people behind the products that we all consume, but also the environment and the communities that they're a part of. So, I talk about sustainability as kind of a three-legged stool, and being environment, economic, and social sustainability. And so for us, while the environmental standards are incredibly important and they're incredibly strong in fair trade certification, I think for myself as a consumer, when I think about ethical, I feel like I want to influence catching those other two legs of the stool up to environment, because sustainability, at least in the U.S., for a long time has been very equated with environment, and it absolutely deserves and needs that focus, but we also can't build an unsustainable sustainability movement. So if you've got the environmental leg is 30 feet tall and the other two are 5 feet tall, we've got to make sure we're stabilizing things. Because the people and the communities behind these products are critically important and important partners in driving environmental sustainability.
Wow, that's so well said. When we were forming this type of work and program at United Against Human Trafficking, that's actually one of the discussions we had amongst the team is what is ethical? Is it sustainability? Is it these other buzzwords? And diving into all this, we found that it's like you scratch the surface and there's so much more. So I really appreciate you, just talking candidly about, this is sustainability, environmentalism here, but we're trying to make sure that people and workers and conditions are also held into a similar esteem. So that actually is a great segue into our next question, which is, facing challenges. So what kind of challenges beyond, say, equating and evening out to those standards, what other types of challenges do you face with Fair Trade USA and in working in the sphere of ethical?
So I think, it's a really dynamic movement in terms of the range of products that are certified, the range of communities and people behind those products, the range of businesses that participate in the fair trade movement by bringing fair trade products to market. And so I think for Fair Trade USA in particular, there's always a challenge around balancing how we bring new partners and new businesses into the fair trade space, and how we cultivate and build not just the value for the producers, but also demonstrate and prove out how building more sustainable supply chains and investing more in the communities behind the products you're sourcing is good business. Sustainable supply chains in a world on fire can't be overstated. The importance of that for businesses, and all of our businesses, big and small in this country, are struggling through the pandemic, through the seemingly unending barrage of issues that we're facing and reckoning with as a society. And so, we want to make sure that folks are participating in the fair trade movement, regardless of the reason for their entry into the fair trade movement, that we grow within their company and within their stakeholders a drive towards the importance of that investment, and that it's not just something to be used for marketing, that it's something to be used as a genuine way to engage consumers in making an impact with their purchases.
Absolutely. So leading to our next question, how do you feel that Fair Trade USA helps to create justice in the world?
I think of us as an enabler for participating in people's drive towards justice, because fair trade is, I think, a really important opportunity or a really important mechanism by which producers on the production end of the supply chain and on the production end of the movement are able to deliver the kind of justice and create the kind of justice that their communities need. I think one of the beauties of the fair trade model is that we all know what our communities need, no matter where we are in the world, right? And I don't believe that heavy-handed approaches of saying, and this has been demonstrated in some of there are good and bad examples, but in some of the not great examples of international development, of government money coming in, being dumped into other governments, and saying this is what you should do with this money. That doesn't drive transformational change. That can drive maybe some incremental change. But to me, the beauty of the fair trade model is that agency sits with the communities, right? And the democratic decision making on how to use community development funds, and how those decisions are made, how those projects and programs are scoped. That is a difficult thing to metricize, right? That unlocking of kind of community decision making and democratic decision making, but that in and of itself has an impact, I think. And so I hesitate to say that we make justice. I think what we do is provide tools and resources and mechanisms to help folks make the justice that they need in their communities. In the US, I think we have a role to play in making justice in terms of making sure consumers know about the opportunities they have, making sure that we're doing everything we can to engage and enroll a broad range and diverse set of businesses to participate in the movement, and thinking about how we can drive value for those businesses by opening up consumer options and driving consumer perception of what fair trade means.
Absolutely. I've definitely personally appreciated the breadth and scope of what Fair Trade USA certifies, and it's enabled me to, I can attest to that, it's enabled me to try to live more of the principles that I want to live in my life. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, the only just short build on that is that, one of the things that I find really encouraging is, the range of fair trade products and the price points that they're available now compared to even just 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly before that,
Totally.
Speaks to that ability to raise more awareness and tap into a much broader consumer range, and really open up the way that we talk about and who we talk to about fair trade. And I think that that's something that there's incredible room for improvement and further investment in. But I'm really encouraged that this doesn't need to be, we can never achieve the impact that we want to achieve if this is just something that's accessible to people who shop at Whole Foods. Like, that's just not, and Whole Foods is an incredible partner and have made a huge range of fair trade products available to consumers, many of them for the first time. And the majority of consumers don't shop at Whole Foods. And so being able to make more product available in more places is absolutely one of the ways we can drive more justice, I think.
So, how does Fairtrade USA work to combat systemic disadvantages faced by producers around the world?
I mean, that's through the, I mean, really the standards are what address, a lot of those challenges. So, by ensuring that the barrier of entry isn't impossible for producers, right? I mean, that's a very
Mhm.
important part of this equation is you can build the most robust program and the most impactful set of standards. And if it's not accessible, if the model costs too much, or if it's unattainable, or, the expectation is you've got to hit every single one of these things to enter the system, it limits the availability of that system to producers. And so I think that, you know, by thinking about accessibility, on the producer end, we've been able to do more to create more of those opportunities for far more people than would be able to be benefiting from fair trade. And then the proof is in the process, right? It's not just when folks enter the system; it's how you work with them, it's how you provide resources and guidance and support as they move through that journey.
Oh, so important. I feel like especially now in this day and age, connecting with one another, supporting one another is central to so many more things than we used to think, I believe.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So
yeah, and
as
and
we,
these
oh,
challenges like the pandemic and climate change, those are things that just have outsized impact on people with less resources, and so
mhm.
um, you know producers in the fair trade system are absolutely on the front lines of climate change, right? I mean, we're starting to see that the outsized impacts of climate change in the U.S. through things like California
Wow.
burning for months and 5 storms in the Gulf of Mexico at the same time, like these unprecedented things. That's not new everywhere in the world. And so, as we grapple with the impacts of climate change here, we have to understand that there are far more people with far fewer resources that have been on the front lines of this for far longer than we have. And so, you know, access to systems like fair trade, access to resources and best practices and things like that are absolutely essential, for folks to be able to survive, let alone thrive.
Well said. So as we wrap up, how can we find, how can everyday consumers find fair trade certified products? And what are some of your favorite fair trade products?
So you can find fair trade certified products, I mean, literally almost anywhere. And that's the beauty of the growth of the market share that fair trade has gotten over the years. If you're looking for specific products and specific products certified by Fair Trade USA, Fair Trade USA's website, fairtradecertified.org, has a great kind of product finder and business finder. So you can both look by product category and find the types of products that you might be looking for. But you can also look for brands. So if you have a favorite brand and you're trying to figure out if they are making fair trade products available, you can look there, or you can see the kind of the breadth of products that different partners are selling. Also for fair trade campaigns, all of our local initiatives like Houston have their own page on our website. So that's fairtradecampaigns.org. And so if you're looking to find a location to buy those products, now stay home and stay safe. If you're buying online, buy online. And you can find listings locally where we have fair trade campaign efforts of retail locations that are selling fair trade products. And often those lists on those pages will have not just the location, but at least some of, if not a huge range of the products being sold at those locations. My products, I'm a chocolate and coffee addict. As coffee, I didn't know that I could need coffee more than I used to, but after being home for 6+ months, I might
True.
need even more of it. I am infatuated with Black and Bold's Limu Ethiopia blend for coffee. Their business is exploding. They're being featured in Target. They're being featured
Yeah.
entrepreneurs all over the place. They're an incredible company. Beyond Fair Trade, they give 5% of their profits to youth organizations all over the country to expand opportunities for youth. They're a great company, and that Limu Ethiopia is outstanding. I'm usually a medium or dark roast guy, and that's light roast, and that's all we've been drinking. Um,
Okay.
and then chocolate, Alter Eco's dark velvet truffles are incredible. addictive. I try not to have too much.
Yes, they are rich. Yes. Well, Billy, we really appreciate you spending time with us, helping us to better understand what Fair Trade USA is, what it's all about, and how you and the team make justice. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your work, and we hope to see you all, consumers, viewers, next time. Later this month, we'll be talking to Thistle Farms and continue to celebrate Fair Trade Month. So happy celebrating Fair Trade Month.
Happy Fair Trade Month, everyone.
Bye.